Well, Michelle Grattan, good morning.
Good morning.
It's an opportunity to look back upon Tony Abbott's first 100 days as Prime Minister. If you were Tony Abbott at Christmas, catching up with yourself a bit, reflecting on how those first 100 days have gone, how do you think he would sum up that period?
I think he'd be delighted to be in power. That's the first thing. Having won the election, not only a big relief, but obviously something that he always wanted to do to reach the Prime Ministership. So there would be that. Well, the revelations themselves, of course, have caused this crisis, and the fact that Australia hasn't been able to handle them in a way that satisfied the Indonesians. But the text messages by Mark Textor really were very, very unhelpful for the government. He is, of course, the Liberal Party's pollster. He's not in the government. He's not necessarily all the time working for the Liberal Party, but in the Indonesians' minds, it would be one and the same thing. He would be seen as just part of the political establishment, and to put out insulting messages really was the last straw, the last thing the government needed so quickly. He'd also be a bit concerned that some of his ministers didn't seem to have hit their straps as smoothly as he might have hoped. He'd know that he really has to consolidate the team, make sure that things are internally working smoothly by the beginning of next year. One overwhelming feeling he would have would be that he was very thankful to get some time off to recharge the batteries, because it's been a hell of a year for all sides of politics.
And the reaction to him and his government, there's been another news poll showing the ALP leading 52 to 48 after preferences. Will he be concerned about that, do you think?
I think he would think that it's early days, but he would also know that he's not naturally a popular Prime Minister or popular leader with the voters, that they did very much vote against Labor rather than for him. So he would take that as something of a warning. I think if he's wise, he wouldn't underestimate the potential appeal of Bill Shorten. Mm-hmm. Bill Shorten is starting reasonably slowly, but his opinion ratings, his satisfaction ratings have mounted gradually since he's become leader, and I think that he could be quite a formidable opponent. And when Labor was in power, one of its big mistakes, a really big mistake, was to underestimate Tony Abbott, to think, oh, well, he'll not be electable. And they used to say this. Well, they know now he was electable. And I think that the Liberals would need to learn from this. Don't underestimate your opposition leader.
Maybe every 100 days in politics is full of events, but this seems to have been a very eventful period. Indonesia, Gonski, Holden, Grain Corp and so on. Can he expect a quieter period coming up?
Well, you would think so, but in politics these days it never seems quiet. So it would be amazing if it was quite as dramatic as the first 100 days have been in terms of issues. But nevertheless, I think that it's always action-packed these days.
Michelle, in your column today, Grattan on Friday, you said that before the election, Abbott liked to talk in absolutes. Promises were to be kept. There were to be no surprises, no excuses, but you say that government isn't like that. Is Tony Abbott learning that lesson now?
Well, he should have always known that. It's not as though he's just arrived on the football ground, as it were. He's been around a long time. He was a senior minister in the Howard government, and he saw that sometimes all these things were very difficult, and dramatically promises were broken and there were surprises and so on. I think he overreached in his rhetoric. When in opposition leaders tend to say anything that sounds good on the day, but of course we have had broken promises. even this week we had the retreat on the NBN targets that the fast broadband's not going to be delivered as quickly, even as the more relaxed timetable of the coalition had promised. So you do find that there are surprises. Promises always have to be broken to some extent, although I think governments these days need to be really careful not to break promises unless they really, really have to. But Tony Abbott now faces all those realities. He faces a public which is volatile, people are quickly disillusioned, and so political life these days is full of hazards.
And finally, Michelle, Grattan, yesterday that High Court struck down the ACT's same-sex marriage legislation and did so effectively on the ground that this is a federal matter, it's not for states and territories. So this is going to come back in his direction. My feeling is that it's not like the Republican debate that can go away for 10 years and then pop back up again. This is just going to keep on mounting as an issue. How do you think he's going to handle it?
I think it will be around as an issue. Whether it will have the same momentum that it would have had if the High Court had gone the other way, I think is another matter. But nevertheless, there are some in the Parliament who are dedicated to pushing it. There's a little cross-party group that are going to promote it. The Greens brought a bill into the Parliament yesterday to get it going at that level again. I think that Tony Abbott will be anxious not to be too involved in this matter. I don't think he would fight the party room giving a conscience vote. Whether the support for a conscience vote is there, not quite sure at this stage, but probably it is. It is quite a conservative party room though, but I think on balance it would be there. Tony Abbott said it's up to the party room. I think he will basically just now see how the cards fall on this one. He's got enough other things to occupy himself.
Well, Michelle, this was the last of our video recorded discussions for this year. So I'd like to thank you. I've enjoyed our conversations greatly and look forward to talking to you again next year.
It's been a great year to chat.
Thank you.